Hello, everyone, and welcome to PlanYear's webinar introducing our new AI-powered RFP Responder. Having started my career on the broker side as a producer, I have spent countless hours responding to RFP requests, oftentimes without even knowing if there was any chance that I would win the deal. But like any good salesperson, I find it incredibly challenging to walk away from potential revenue. And so many hours were spent working on these RFP requests with really little to no understanding of if it made sense, if it was worthwhile. And so I couldn't be more excited to share with you this tool that really does take away all of the pain of responding to RFPs, allows you to answer those questions quickly, efficiently, accurately, and get them back to the client without, taking away time that you could be doing other work, relationship building, more strategic aspects of your job. So it makes the entire RFP process very painless and quick, which is something, at least based on my experience, I never thought that I would say about RFPs. So we'll start things off here with a question I think a lot of us have asked ourselves, which is, if you don't have a relationship, is it even worth responding to an RFP request? And I think historically the temptation has been to say, no, I'm going to decline to bid if I don't have any sort of existing relationship with the prospect. Now, why would you decline potential revenue? Why would you take your hat out of the ring? Well, one, because oftentimes you have no understanding, no data really to determine if you have a chance of winning the deal. You also don't have an understanding of what their pain points are, of what their requirements are. So as you are trying to respond to these questions, there's really no way for you to personalize it to that, specific prospect needs, other than basic information that you can find available online. A lot of RFPs will even basically only give you a short window to ask questions, and then at that point you're cut off completely. All you can do is respond. Now, when it comes to those questions, I'm sure everyone on the line has received an RFP where at least some percentage of those questions seemed largely irrelevant to that specific client. For example, I remember working on an RFP, and it was a very small client. And we're in the state of California, where claims visibility doesn't come into play until you're looking at more 250 employees enrolled. And a lot of the questions, an entire section was dedicated to claims analysis and how we were going to support them with that. And so, what you find is that oftentimes HR teams are going online, they're downloading these RFP templates to find a broker, and they're kind of cut and pasting them together. And oftentimes that results in questions that are quite frankly irrelevant. So, it really does start to feel like an exercise in futility. You're responding to these questions, even though, they're not even going to be impactful for the client. They're not relevant for their market segment. And really, because of this, it's so hard to justify the hours that are spent on these RFPs, because let's be honest, it is hours. Even if you breeze through these, even if you try to answer as quickly as possible, it's just a huge amount of work for any individual to do. And writing requires a good amount of creativity, and that requires time and energy. So it is oftentimes really challenging to justify the time spent. I will say it's challenging to justify the time spent unless you have a tool that makes it almost no time at all. And really, that is our goal with what we're building at PlanYear. Now, sure, you might say, I'm just going to decline to bid. If I don't have the relationship, if I don't know that the RFP has almost been structured for me to win, then I'm just not going to put in any time or effort. And what is the risk? Well, I want to provide an example, a very specific example of a deal that I have worked on with a smaller client. It was a company located in Ohio, and I had every reason to say I should just decline to bid. They're a smaller company, lower revenue potential, and I never heard of them. I had no relationship. They did not want to get on the line and share anything about their current setup or pain points. But I ended up saying, okay, I'm going to spend a bit of time on this. We'll at least submit a response, and we'll see what we can do, right? I had a few hours to spend on it, so I decided to dedicate the time to it. And what ended up happening was there was no existing relationship. So this was an HR person who had worked in human resources but never had managed benefits. And so, they couldn't even remember the names of the brokers that they had worked with in the past. They were new to the role, so they were very excited to make an impact. They wanted to, switch things up and really prove to the team that they were, making a really, really big impact on the company. And because of that, what they had actually done before they released the RFP is they had already secured all of the buy-in from their leadership team to be able to make this decision. So before that RFP was sent, it was already basically fast-tracked to be able to, actually change vendors, change broker, which oftentimes, what you're fighting against is inertia. So they had already actually approved that change. So when we submitted the RFP, it's actually only one other broker that submitted. They had released it to, I want to say somewhere between 5 and 10 different firms, and only 2 actually responded, probably for all of the reasons that I wanted to decline to bid. But because of that, we ended up having a really, really good chance. We got to the finalist round and ultimately ended up winning this client and creating a great relationship with them over the years. Now, I pulled up this example of what a search looks like when you're from the HR perspective. How do I find this benefits broker? And I think we all sit here and scratch our heads in frustration. Why are there so many RFPs being released? Well, it's clear, if you don't know exactly how to find a broker, or if you don't have an existing relationship, you really are relying on the internet, research, forums to be able to find the steps that are needed to actually run through this evaluation process. And I pulled this quote from SHRM, so everyone can see exactly what folks are finding when they search for this information. It says, although employers and brokers, so both sides of the parties, generally dislike a formal request for proposal process, a growing number of organizations are using this method to pick a broker. So it is becoming more common. It's becoming more common even with smaller employers. And for a lot of those large employers at this point, it is really table stakes. You're not going to have a seat at the table. You're not even going to be able to potentially have a chance at winning the deal unless you complete the RFP process. So we know it's becoming more and more necessary for a lot of these deals, although it is very frustrating, and reasonably it's frustrating for HR teams as well, because it is a lot of work. So it's an important decision, and because of that, they're taking a much more kind of long-winded approach to evaluating the process. Now, I'm excited to tell you about how PlanYear solves all of these problems, and really about how it can allow you to bid on all of these RFPs, whether you have a relationship or not, and to do so in such a short time period that there's no questioning of, should I decline? Should I bid? Is there a chance of me winning? If it takes you 5 to 10 minutes, it doesn't matter. It's worth your while to be able to have a chance at winning that deal, because the time investment is so small. But before we get there, before we talk about PlanYear, I want to just quickly touch on some of the other solutions in the market and the problem that we run into when we use these tools, because they're really only solving part of the problem. And as you can see in this image, it leaves you, with a lot of rock to climb to get you out of this bad situation. So what these tools do, typically, they're a question and answer repository, and that is helpful. Because it allows you to search through those old responses to old RFPs and pull out the factual information to be able to drop that into a new RFP request, and then you got to do the rewriting. The problems that you run into: one, you have to organize all of that content and manage it on an ongoing basis. I spent many years managing a proposal team at a company called Omada Health, and this was almost a full-time job, right? You had someone who was essentially spending all of their time working with subject matter experts, trying to get them to rewrite this language, make sure that it is still up to date. And that is a huge, huge body of work. And these content repositories become enormous and almost impossible to maintain. So that's one part of the problem. And if you don't do a good job maintaining that, then when you actually go to use the system, it's impossible to search through. So finding that content that you're looking for that's actually relevant to the question that you're working on in this RFP, it is an insane exercise that takes way longer than anyone would expect or anyone would hope. Now there's another problem with these solutions in that even, let's say you've gone through the effort, you've organized the content repository, step one. Step two, you still have to search through that and find the accurate answer that you're looking for. Now, step three, you need to rewrite that answer relative to the question that's actually being asked. A lot of these questions are similar, but they are almost never worded exactly the same. So you get that, previously responded to question, you drop in the content, and then you're doing an exercise in rewriting that to make sure that it actually fits relative to the new question that's being asked. So you get part of the way there. It's not saying they aren't helping, but it just doesn't address the full problem, the full breadth of the problem that we're running into. And you still end up spending way too much time, far longer than, far too much time to actually justify the potential upside, the potential revenue. So our goal here, let's reduce the amount of time that it takes you to respond to that RFP so it's really worthwhile, and get you access to more deals, which everybody loves. So with that, let's actually show you what the technology itself looks like. So I will go ahead and I'll switch gears and I will share my screen so we can take you through this experience on PlanYear. Now, first thing that I want to show you is exactly how to get the RFP trained on your firm, your language, your service level offering, all of those details that are required, all of the context that's required to respond to an RFP. So the way that it works within the PlanYear platform, implementation can be about a 5-minute or less exercise. All you're going to do is click on this Train AI button on the top right-hand side, and you're going to drop in those previously responded to RFPs. Now, there's roughly 4 RFPs in the model as of today. We do recommend putting as much content as you can into the system because it learns from that. So the more access to information that it has, the more sophisticated it can be with those responses and the more comprehensive the learning is. And all you need to do from the end user perspective, drag and drop those files. It can read PDFs, it can read Word documents. So just drop them in, walk away, grab a coffee, come back, and the system is ready to use. So very little upstart, and you're pretty much set to go. When you have a new request for proposal, the next thing you're going to do is click on this RFP responder button in the top right corner, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to upload the actual request. So first we train the model using those previously responded to RFPs, and now we're actually going to enter a new request for proposal that has not been filled out quite yet. So again, it supports multiple formats. So just grabbing that file from my laptop. And the first thing that the system is doing as it goes through this RFP is it needs to extract the questions. It needs to understand what are the actual action items? What does the end user need to take action on within this RFP? So it's going through that process. It's extracting the questions, and then it's actually going to start drafting those responses. As you can see, it's done here today. So on the left-hand side, you can see the questions that have been brought in from that RFP. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the response that has been drafted. Now, you can always edit these questions as they come in, and you can continue editing the responses as well. So you've got a baseline. Of course, we've got kind of standard editing tools at the top that you can see, so I can always make changes in line. But if I click on this AI tool on the left side, you can see that I can always just draft a new response. Maybe I just want to see a little bit different wording. I can, condense the response. I can make it shorter. I can make it longer. I can elaborate on that response, and I can also use this advanced functionality. Now, what the advanced functionality allows you to do, it actually shows you where that learning is coming from. So you can see here, the AI is pulling all of that relevant information in based on the previously responded to RFPs in order to inform the new response. Now, maybe there's one of these question answer from the previously responded to RFPs, maybe I think it's irrelevant. Maybe it's a very unique RFP that I don't want to influence this RFP. So I can always exclude any of that information as easy as clicking this include, exclude, and that is going to tell the system exactly which content it should be pulling from. And then I can just create that new response. Now, on the top here, you also have the ability to give it a little bit more information. Potentially, there's some additional context that you want to provide that has not been included in those RFP responses that you train the model on. You can add that additional context. You can give the model a command. Maybe you want it to be a little bit more concise or highlight a specific detail, a specific point. So you can add that information in here, and then you'll just click the create a new response on the bottom, and it's going to draft based on that information. So lots of editing tools that you have at your disposal here. And of course, you can go kind of question by question, do all of that editing. And then once you're done editing, you'll just go ahead and click save and continue. And then you can copy all of this out with a click to copy. So if you have a beautiful template that you're typically using for these RFP responses, you can certainly copy and paste it into that. You can adjust the naming convention. So when you save it, it's easy to search for within the system. And then you can also export that to a Word document. So you can take it out of the system in two different ways. And then you have the flexibility to utilize existing templates as you so choose. So very quick and easy process, going from start to finish. Even doing that training of the model can be done in one sitting and get that sent back to the client so that you're not spending way too many hours on an RFP where potentially you don't even know what the likelihood is that you're going to win. So it really makes that a few minute long process, and then you get back to your normal day-to-day activities. Now, PlanYear is always attempting to make our system better, to make it more usable and impactful for our clients. And for that reason, we have some new features. This is a new tool, but we are actually already improving upon it. So what is coming soon for the AI RFP Responder? We are going to be releasing tag functionality. And what this tag functionality allows you to do is categorize the RFPs. And you can do this, you can set the criteria, but some examples of this are, if you have a very small client or large group clients, are they fully insured? Are they self-funded? Are there industry specifics that you want to be able to categorize here? So this functionality is going to be released shortly, and this will really give users the ability to categorize much more effectively in the PlanYear system. So a lot of great organizational capabilities there. I'm very excited to see the impact this will have on our clients. Now, if you are ready to get started, if you're excited about what you've seen today within the AI RFP Responder, we do have the ability to trial this for 1 month for free. So no risk, no cost to you. You can try the system out. You can actually use this QR code to sign up. And if you would like to provide this more broadly to a larger team, think about more of an enterprise type license of the AI RFP Responder, please reach out to sales@planyear.com to learn more. We'll be more than happy to discuss that with you. And also, please feel free to reach out to sales@planyear.com with any questions that you might have. And with that, I will say thank you so much for your time and attention today. I really appreciate it. I will go ahead and leave this QR code up as well as the email address in case folks would like to reach out. But otherwise, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we'll look forward to connecting with all of you shortly.